back to another video. Today I thought I'd touch on tips for a successful bulk. I think I'm going to split this video up into 5 tips to ensure that you have a successful bulk, as that's something I'm currently going through on my journey through fitness at the minute. I'm in the bulking phase, so I'm trying to put on muscle and then with the end goal of hoping to cut down maybe in a few months' time. So that's where I'm currently at. So I thought it'd be a good idea, if you don't really know what it's about or you need some advice or whatever, I'm your man. I'm going to help you out with tips for a successful bulk. So firstly, to start off, the fundamental point is, what is a bulk? And it's a very simple explanation that a lot of people often just muck up and get wrong. And it's simply science. It's simply calories in versus calories out. And it's energy in, energy out. And that's in the form of calories. So what does that mean? That means that you need to be consuming more calories than you are expending. Oh, I'm not sure. Consuming than expending. Yeah, maybe that's right. You need to be in a calorie surplus, and that, I could end the video right there. You need to be in a calorie surplus to put on weight. You might be thinking, so if I eat 2,500 calories and I expend 2,500 calories, I'll stay the same way. Well, you would be correct. So therefore, what do you need to do? You need to be in a surplus of around 100 to 300 calories. That means if you're expending 2,500 calories, you need to be consuming 2,800 calories, for example, and that will mean you will gain weight. You might be thinking though, there's no way I can burn 2,500 calories in a day. I don't do enough. Well, that will be where you're wrong, because it's all to do with your basal metabolic rate. There are calculators online that you can get a rough idea about, but the basic premise is that you're burning calories all throughout the day. Like I'm doing it right now, just talking. You do it when you're sleeping, you do it when you're walking, you do it when you're eating. Everything you do, you're constantly burning calories. And obviously, the more active you are, the higher your basal metabolic rate is. And this is often referred to people who have fast metabolisms. Often people who have fast metabolism simply just move more throughout the day. They might be a little bit more fidgety, they might do a few more steps, they might have an active job. So that's all something that needs to be taken into account. It's something like genetics, your age, your muscle mass, that all factors your metabolism. So to kickstart the bulk, there's an easy way to calculate your calories. You just track what you eat, you track your scales, and you see if your weight is going up or down. If your weight's going up, you're in a calorie surplus. If your weight's staying the same, you're at maintenance calories. And if your weight's decreasing, you're in a deficit. So there's calculators online that will give you a rough idea, but none of them are going to be accurate as simply tracking what you eat in MyFitnessPal and tracking your weight. So that's where I'd start off with. Find out what your maintenance calories is. Add 100 to 300 calories, not 100 to 300 calories, and go from there. But this is something that will change over time. Your maintenance calories might end up being what your calories were at the start of the bulk. So if you start the bulk off at 2,800 calories, you might find that a month down the line, you're not gaining weight anymore, and that's because your metabolism is simply adapted to the food you're eating. You know, you might be expending a few more calories in the gym, you might be working harder because you've got more food in you, more energy, you might move more simply just because you've got more energy inside of you. So therefore, you're going to have to bump your calories up again, and this is what some people struggle to understand with, like, just because you start your bulk eating 2,800 calories does not mean you'll be able to continue to eat 2,800 calories at the end. You're going to have to push harder. You're going to have to push your food up further and further and further. And that is the first point. Be in a calorie surplus to start with. Calculate your calorie surplus and get eating. Anyway, that's the first tip. I'll come on to the second tip a little bit later. Right, tip number 2 for a successful bulk is to do with training and the fact you have to be training with progressive overload. There is no point eating all this food if you were going in and lifting the same week in, week out. You've got to be eating big, you've got to be training big, you've got to be sleeping big. You know, you've got to be training very hard and progressing your lifts every week. The goal has to be to get stronger over time. The goal has to be to put on muscle. So, with that saying, what I would do, I'd get yourself a logbook. Get yourself a little book where you can write down your lifts every week. Try and go in the next week and beat that lift. It's as simple as that. Take progressions where you can, try and take your lifts up, and you will put on muscle. If you get stronger, you will put new muscle tissue on. But that also comes with the fact that you need to not be chopping and changing your programs every week. Find a program that's working for you and stick to it, right? Stick to it for weeks, for months. Don't be changing it every 3 weeks. Don't be changing it every 2 months. Stick to it for at least 12 weeks before you can see any changes. How do you know what you do if you go in one day and you go, oh, I'll go on the flat bench, and then, oh, the flat bench isn't free this week, so I'll start with a shoulder press, and then you need to be training the same routine every week. Nail the basics, nail the big movements, get strong at your hip hinges, get strong at your presses, get strong at your squat patterns, and you will bring up all body parts. And the target audience I'm trying to come across to is sort of people my age, teenagers, and therefore we're in our early years of lifting, and that means you do not need to be doing single body part splits. You do not need a chest day, you do not need a back day, you don't need a shoulder day. You need to be training muscle groups frequently and putting them together. So that's upper bodies, that's lower body, that's push, that's pull, and legs really. And our full body, if you want to do that. You don't need to be going in and training arms on their own, because basically you haven't got enough muscle everywhere to warrant an arm day. So get strong at the fundamentals, progress your lifts, and you'll put on muscle. That's tip number 2. Tip number 3 to follow. Tip number 3 for the bulk. Coming live from a very cold and slightly snowy Nottingham. It was snowing a lot earlier. It's kind of come down a bit now, so just out doing a few steps whilst it's a little bit chilly and cold. And that brings me on to tip number 3 for the bulk, which is pick foods which you enjoy, because you're going to be eating a lot of them. Don't be going overboard, don't be doing a dirty bulk. I never gave you permission to do that. I didn't say eat all the shit in the world, but you have to be eating foods you enjoy. You can't be eating 500 grams worth of plain rice, you know. Pick foods that are nice. Realistically or scientifically proven that 3,000 calories from McDonald's and 3,000 calories from clean food is the same for body composition. It's quite hard to get your head around, but it will yield the same results in terms of energy in, energy out. Obviously there's macro differences, because they'll be higher in fat, which will be bad for your visceral fat. It won't have the same protein content, and it's all about training for performance. When bulking, you need to eat for performance. That's basically what you're doing. It's cold, I'm not gonna lie. Get the carbs in around the training window. Use the carbs to fuel your workout, and then replenish with post-workout carbs. If you want to eat a muffin, do that if food's getting high. Pick foods that you're going to enjoy. Don't be scared to have a few off-plan meals, because when you're dieting you're not going to be able to do that. So you've got to be eating foods you enjoy and that you can get in. So currently I'm eating 500 grams of carbs, and every week I have an off-plan meal, and I eat stuff that I enjoy. Make your food taste nice, make it presentable. Don't be eating boring food, because you will regret it. Anyway, tip number 3, that is, eat foods that you enjoy. Tip number 4 for bulking is don't bulk too fast. Aim for around 1% of your body weight per month. So for me, 220 pounds, that's 2.2 pounds a month. A rough guide is around sort of 0.5 to 1 pound a week. Yeah, and that should do you right. Finishing the video now. Very snowy outside actually, which is quite nice. Going for tip number 5 and rounding this little series, this little video off with knowing how long to bulk for and when to stop. The whole point of a bulk is to put on muscle, and therefore it requires a specific amount of time. This amount of time is determined by many different factors that may cut the bulk short or allow you to elongate it. And this is all to do with appetite, progress in the gym, if you're plateauing or not, and general body fat levels and how you feel. So I would recommend that you should bulk for at least 6 months at a time, and you should stop that bulk when you feel like you are struggling to eat, when you are struggling to progress in the gym, and general when you've got a high level of body fat. So as a teenager, I would recommend that you don't spend long periods of time cutting, because it's not going to be conducive to the overall goal of gaining muscle. So, but that also comes with the flip side of not bulking for too long. There may come to a point where the extra weight you gain is just fat and it's no longer muscle, and that's when you need to be sensible in deciding when to stop the bulk. So for me, currently I'm in a body fat level that I'm happy with, and I'm able to push on for another sort of 10 pounds or so, and so I will continue to do that until there comes a point where I no longer think that the extra weight I will gain will be of benefit to me. But that's not to say, if you are strong, if you are still progressing in the gym at a higher body fat level and you're comfortable and you know that you can get it off, that you should continue bulking. And it's all very subjective, it's down to you. This is why it might be good to have someone that can help you with it, or posting to Instagram, or just something to keep yourself accountable. In first year, I took the bulk way too far, and that just meant it took me ages to get all the weight off. This time round, when I cut, I want to be in a much leaner state, so I don't have to get that excess body fat off, and just, yeah, it's just a ball ache really. No one wants to be doing that. So yeah, hopefully those tips have helped. If you've got any questions, please leave them down in the comments. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Please like, please subscribe. Cheers.